Okay, so that was 50 minutes plus whatever amount of time we have from the first take.
Holy cow. Well, that
So
was
should we
probably
put
just
that
a
in the two
couple.
as well?
No, I
Yeah,
think no, I think we need to do that one the way it is.
just
Yeah,
solid. Okay.
solid. Yeah, I think we'll do that one the way it is. Okay, so the other thoughts I had for the third episode, because you suggested we do three today, is that right? Or do you want to
Yeah.
just try again
Well,
tomorrow?
no, I mean I'm fine with today, but I was thinking the Christmas one would be released like Sunday or something like that, like
Well,
right before Christmas. But if you just want to do those in the order in which we recorded, that's fine too. And if we've got the
yeah,
topics, we can do a
yeah. I think we should do the Christmas one first,
okay.
okay, and then the 10 questions next.
Yep.
And then the third one will be like closer to the new year or even after the new year. What do we got?
Yeah. So here's the schedule. A
Okay.
week
Yeah,
from
you,
today is
yeah.
Christmas.
Okay.
A week from today is Christmas.
Yeah.
So if we do a third one now, that can be Tuesday's episode of next week.
So the 26th. Okay. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
And then we
That
can get
sounds good.
together on like the 26th, or if you said Sundays,
Yeah,
I don't think you
that
want to do this
works.
on Christmas Eve.
Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
So we
Um,
can text each other and see what's
yeah.
going on. But
Okay.
I don't have any plans for Christmas Eve. The only thing I have on Christmas Eve is I may be at the studio from 12 to 2. I'm not sure. I'm
That's
not
fine.
sure. It's a Sunday and I usually have somebody to cover the studio besides me. So anyway, I'm pretty available. The only time I'm not available is actually Christmas Day.
Yeah, of
Other than
course.
that, I'm pretty open. Okay.
Then what I
So
suggest
I
is
don't
we do a third one
mm,
now
mhm.
so that I have time to edit it properly and put it
There
in
you
for
go.
Tuesday.
There you go. There
And
you go.
then if Sunday doesn't work out, we can meet Tuesday and do one for Friday of next week.
Okay. Um, there may be something between now and then that
Of course.
happens, in our personal lives that would be interesting
Yep.
to talk about,
Oh
and
yeah.
we can discuss that because the topics I'm suggesting for this third one are pretty serious.
Okay.
One is and we might be I think we can do both of them so as not to obsess over one or the other. And the one I
Okay.
thought we could talk about is the whole decision that came down on Rudy Giuliani. And not
Mhm.
so much the decision, but the mother in her interview after the decision came down said, she said, I can't go back to my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I miss my home. I miss my neighbors and I miss my name. And when she said that, it just went
Yeah.
through me because I don't know if you're familiar with Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible, but
Not
in
that one.
that,
No. He did
but
the
in
Death
that,
of a Salesman, right?
right, mhm, but in
Yeah.
The Crucible, what happens is it's set back in Salem in the 17th century when they're accusing everybody of being a witch.
Hmm.
And so different people in the community got caught up in this and were designated witches and were, killed or whatever. But one of the main characters, played by Daniel Day Lewis, he has this famous speech, and I have it ready to read. It's just a couple sentences. Famous speech about his name. And every time I hear that, he is so powerful when he delivers it. Every time I hear that, it flies through me. And I have personal, and I'm not sure how much I want to talk about this, but I have personal knowledge about that because as JD was, or Paul and I really, were accused of different things throughout our lives. I mean, you don't recover from that. You don't.
Yeah.
It becomes PTSD for you. And
Right.
how you miss who you are, because it's taken away from you and given, people for ages or maybe even forever think of you differently than they did before when they hear your name, and it's devastating. So I didn't know if we wanted to talk about that. But
Easily,
she
yeah.
talks about money won't solve her problems, you know. And then I saw last night at my daughter Amy's recommendation a movie called A Good Person, which deals with that too. And that may be the way I talk about it. In that, she's in a car accident that is her fault. She's looking at her phone, and because she looks down at her phone, she crashes into a backhoe, and it kills two people who are driving with her in the car. And her life changes at that moment because she's in the hospital. She has a lot of pain. They put her on painkillers. She becomes addicted to painkillers, ends up, being an opium addict. And I mean, she's never the same, and people see her differently, and they don't want to deal with her, and they don't even want other people to know who she is. And it just takes it when your name is ruined, you're ruined, you know,
Yeah,
in many regards.
absolutely.
And it's a really devastating thing. And I'm pretty sure you understand that. So the other thing was, and we kind of talked about this in another episode, and I'm not so sure, it bears repeating, but Amy, again, my daughter, and I think I told you a little bit about this, clued me into a podcast in which the people who are talking, one is a clinical psychologist and all that, and the other one, I don't know what her title is exactly. And this is one of the things that I do badly on our podcast. I don't do proper research, and I don't have the details in front of me that I can share. Okay. And I've got to get better at that. Anyway, but these two women talk about how people with autism or who are on the autism spectrum, and really we're all on the autism spectrum to some degree, some not so much, and some highly autistic. And
Right.
those who are, I can't think of the word now, my memory. Anyway, they talk about how people with autism are in some ways more connected to the next evolution of mankind, that they can eliminate, because people on the autism spectrum don't often pick up on social clues or emotional clues. And because they don't, they can more easily process intuition, things without words, that words get in the way. And it's a fascinating podcast. I couldn't help but think of our discussion last week about artificial intelligence. And
Right.
then also, I think we talked a little bit about In Search of Ancient Astronauts, because there have
Right.
been a
Yep.
number of Facebook posts that came to me this week dealing with, like, the pyramids and how could they be built, and other sacred places in Peru particularly, that human beings could not have created these places. It would have taken too long and too much strength, and there must have been aliens who used lasers and superior technology in order to do it. Anyway, so those are the kinds of things I thought maybe might be interesting to talk about, even though we've touched on them before. So I don't know. Those are just thoughts.
No, absolutely. Um, the the autism, the girl I told you about from our Christmas episode, that the
Mm-hmm.
potential sidekick, the co-host,
Yes.
she and her daughter are on the autism spectrum, and I don't really care, nor would I ever have known it. Yeah, I don't know what it is about them that doctors give them that moniker or identification,
Mm-hmm.
scarlet letter of sorts. Uh,
Exactly.
but then also to about with what you were saying about the name, when my mortgage company in DC illegally tried to foreclose on my house, part of the things they did, and it's still not as good as what it could be to this day, is damaged and ruined my credit, which to
Hmm.
keep a top secret security clearance, you need to have in good shape, or at least
Hmm. There you go.
be able to explain why it's not. And when
And
we
sometimes you
sued,
don't get, and sometimes you don't get the opportunity to explain. Uh, That's
yeah,
devastating.
and when we sued, that was the thing I told the jury was I want my name back.
Hmm.
And I didn't ask for
Exactly.
a lot of money. And that's a mistake I'll never make again. If I have to sue you, it's going to be for billions and let the jury bring
Hmm.
it down some.
Yep.
Or not you, but anybody.
Yeah. Hmm.
I thought I was going to get a decent amount based on our story. And yeah, that didn't happen. But and what was disappointing with that was I really didn't get my name back. I had a decision in my favor. I We proved that my bank not only breached a contract but committed fraud.
Wow.
Nothing was done for my credit history. No court order to remove it. Nothing. And so I had to work, paying bills on time, which I was doing otherwise anyway,
Mm-hmm.
to, wait that out and get that off my history, and only to have other poorly run. I've got Spectrum internet on there twice because they screwed up on LA and here, and I'm fighting that now.
Wow.
Like I'm
Wow.
52 years old and in that space where I'm supposedly enjoying my life as a retiree, or helping Zach experience his. I don't have time to be doing this
Hmm.
every day all day because you're not
Hmm.
competent.
Hmm.
And
Yep. Understood.
oddly enough, um, the one representative from the credit company, the collection agency, said, "Yeah, I hear that a lot about Spectrum."
Hmm.
Like, well, that's something I think I want to subpoena for court.
Hmm. So,
So yeah, that's going to get me worked up.
so what do you want to do?
So, well, I mean, as far as like the name, I can definitely speak to that. I stood my ground.
Hmm.
I beat the mortgage company. I've told you this story because I remember telling you that the president of the mortgage company at that time was the guy who would go on to be Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, a guy named
Yeah.
Stephen Mnuchin.
Numerous.
And
Minutia. That's it.
yeah, Mnuchin, Mnuchin, and he's known as the foreclosure king. So what's that tell you? He's
Mm-hmm.
not giving out good loans if he's foreclosing on many of them,
Mm-hmm.
or he's like
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump. Oh, this guy's the best person there is. 2 weeks later, they're scum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what'd you hire him for then? What'd you give that loan out for if you knew it wasn't going to be paid? And that was 2008. Um, and yeah, it's when people talk behind your back, especially
Yeah.
in government, that's a bigger deal because it's kind of sort of how you do a background check. If I'm, investigating you to be awarded a security clearance, I got to go ask other people about you without you being there, and it's a necessity. So I don't want to have to do that. or deal with it in my private life.
Right.
And that's why I try to stay out of neighborhood gossip and shit like that. Because
Yep. There's a lot of
it's
that.
just not worth it. Yeah,
Hmm. Sadly, there's a lot of it. And sadly, it's
yeah,
just so unnecessary. Yeah. So, anyway, this would be our Tuesday after Christmas episode. It's pretty heavy stuff, though. So,
yeah.
it's pretty heavy stuff.
You still there?
Yep. You want to set the clock?
Okay. What's that?
Do you want to set the clock? Are we ready to go?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's we're still recording, so I'm watching that clock. Um,
Oh,
and I
okay.
picked up where we so you can just keep right on going. If you want to start further, and that's why I was kind of elaborating on the lawsuit and the
I
name.
wondered. Yeah.
Was figuring if that's what I'm comfortable at talking about
Well,
all
we
of
can.
those.
I like it when you don't have to spend a lot of time editing it. And if you
Oh yeah.
use what we just talked about, you're going to have to go back and edit it. So we could start all over and run for 30 minutes and see where we get. And then maybe you
Okay.
won't have to do such heavy editing. Do you want to do that?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Jane Stahl.
And I'm Yergs.
And there you go. And we have just finished what? Celebrating the anniversary of Christ for those of us who identify as Christians. And I know Hanukkah wasn't too far in the past for our Jewish friends. And Boxing Day. Today is Boxing Day. Today is Boxing Day for some peoples in the world. And I can't know exactly who, but I can remember when our family was
Is
in,
that
I think it
Chinese?
was Jamaica. Pardon me? I
I
don't
thought the
remember, but I know
boxer
when our
thing was
family was
Chinese.
in Jamaica, when our family was in Jamaica, it was Boxing Day. So I think it's, it might be the UK
Okay.
as
Okay.
and colonies of the I'm not exactly sure. But anyway,
Right.
we hope everybody had a lovely holiday and is recovering from a food fest of some kind, and also what you say, having a wonderful time reliving some memories of being with family and friends over the Christmas holiday. But one of the things at some point that I wanted to talk about, which I think is kind of important, and this occurred before the holiday, before the Christmas holiday actually occurred, was the decision that came down from the court for Rudy Giuliani's defamation suit, in which those those women who were serving as in voting, in recording voting and so forth, were defamed by Rudy Giuliani, not only right after the election, but for years later, and even after the decision came down, Mr. Giuliani was continuing to defame them. But what struck me, not as much as anything, was Miss Freeman's comments after the judgment came down, in which she talked about, money cannot cure, no matter how much it is, money cannot cure everything. She said, I can't go back to my neighborhood. I can't go back to my home. She says, I miss my home. I miss my neighbors. And I miss my name. And I tell you what, when I heard her say that, it took me back to Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, it takes place during the times of the Salem witch trials, when some young people, 13-year-old people, were accusing older women in the community of being witches. And it became a mass hysteria kind of thing. And they had a court procedure to determine whether these people were witches or not. And I mean, the ending is horrific in as much as they hanged the women who were accused of of being witches. And part of the dialogue that Arthur Miller writes for one of the main characters that was played by Daniel Day-Lewis at the time has always grabbed me in a profound way. And what he says is, because it's my name. He refuses to say that he is guilty of, of the things that he's being accused of. And because he refuses to admit, and therefore, not be hanged, he refuses to admit to whatever it is they're accusing him of. And so therefore they feel obligated to hang him by the neck. And he explains that the reason he's refusing is because it is my name, because I cannot have another in my life, because I lie and sign myself to lies, because I am not worth the dust on the feet of them that hang. How may I live without my good name, really? I have given you my soul. Leave me my name. And so he refuses to lie, because he wants, but he can't get back what we would call perhaps his reputation, his good name, because he's been accused of this. And I watched a movie last night entitled A Good Person, in which this whole idea of losing your name, of losing your reputation over a mischaracterization, perhaps, or a mistake that was made, or somebody's accusation that was either true or not true, and you carry that tarnish on your name for the rest of your life. And because you cannot rid yourself of it, it becomes a poison. It becomes a poison
Right.
to your sense of self, to your self-confidence, to who you are. And in the movie, the woman, becomes an addict to painkillers, and then ends up on the street and ends up losing her friends, because from that moment on she has lost her name. And it's so prevalent everywhere. I mean, I see it in our community, where people talk behind one another's back. They make things up. They insinuate without any proof. And don't we have so much of that right now in our politics and in our regular
Oh,
life?
wow.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm sure you may have some experiences with that. I know I do personally as well. And it just breaks my heart to watch when people struggle so hard against things that are done to them unfairly. And so it broke my heart to listen to this woman talk about her name. I'm sure you have some experiences as well.
Yeah. When my mortgage company tried to illegally foreclose on my house, and I took my case to an attorney who, in turn, sued the mortgage company, the mistake that I made to the jury was not going after millions of dollars, but instead just wanting my name back.
Mm-hmm.
And I never got that. The decision was in my favor, but there was no order to repair my credit history, which was wrongfully damaged. There was no large financial reward that I could have used to buy the house out. There was nothing like that. And so I get a, yeah, they wronged you. Have a nice life, which for that reason was anything but. If any of our listeners have a security clearance, they know what they have to do to their credit history to maintain that security clearance. It's got to be in good shape, or you need to know why it's in bad shape, and the government needs to know that
And
too. And it's a
sometimes
lot of work.
you don't have the and sometimes you don't have the opportunity to explain or to give the background or
Right.
the context of, you know, and so you live with it forever. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
really
And,
tough.
and when it's on your credit, nobody says, "Hey, is this accurate?" They just put it on your
Mm-hmm.
credit. And
Mm-hmm.
then, in my case,
Yeah.
they put it on my credit again and again. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was probably 7 or 8 years that I
Yeah.
was in court against my mortgage company, during which time I wasn't paying my mortgage because they didn't know how to manage it. They already proved that. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was sue early, sue often, sue for a lot. That's
Yeah.
my advice if you got something like that. This lady said
Yeah.
that the money isn't going to get her uh, name back, correct? But it's going to give you a one hell of a start in developing a new one.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's yeah.
$148 million is going to sting Rudy Giuliani like a bitch.
Well, I guess his family or his lawyers said it's like a death sentence, an economic death sentence
And
for
it should
him
be.
because, and it should be, because he's still saying those kinds of things. So I
I don't
suppose,
know.
as we look at the new year and a new way of living, maybe we can make a resolution to speak only the truth
Yeah.
and speak only
And know what you're
kindly.
talking about when you speak. Yeah.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, because there's too much of the other stuff going around. People, I think, this upsets me about people I know too. People use words unkindly and falsely in order to trigger other people's, what do you say, vulnerability. They know
Trigger
where
porn.
to poke in order to get a
Yeah.
rise out of people, in order to get them to be uncomfortable or to have to feel like they have to defend themselves or whatever. And I find that habit of people who who try to do that on purpose for their own entertainment, honestly, for either for their own entertainment or to make themselves feel bigger than they are or smarter than they are or more popular than they are or whatever. I just find
Yeah.
it so evil. Just
I think it's
absolutely
the latter.
evil.
Yeah, I think it's the latter items beyond just the entertainment. I think I mean, look at everything that's out there about Donald Trump and then
Hmm.
just listen to him. This is what he said at a rally in New Hampshire with regards to the economy. And I'm going to paraphrase, of course, but keep in mind what year we're in right now. The year, for those of you who might not know, is 2023. And
Hmm.
we've just had Christmas. Next Christmas, at this time, the economy is going to be so good and everything's going to get so good again, just like I had it the first time. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. He's making more
Hmm.
campaign promises he can't deliver on. But this
Hmm.
time, literally can't deliver on it. Christmas, this time next year, win or lose, Joe Biden will still be president.
Hmm.
Maybe, Donald, if you would attend an inauguration once in a while, even if it's not your own, you would know that it happens in January, not at Christmas.
Well, I guess he
And
expects the market. He expects to win, and then he expects the market to have a rally of amazing proportions looking forward to his next presidency. Never mind that the stock market closed at historic highs just a few days
Yes,
ago.
exactly. Exactly. That unemployment is at
Yeah.
a historic lows. Uh,
Well,
this is, I forget what the
mhm.
number was, but an outrageous streak that the Biden administration has created with both low unemployment, but then also a continually lowering inflation rate
Mhm.
that's never been before been seen. We
And
have a
honestly, Ross,
production rate going on right now. Go ahead.
well,
Go
just
ahead.
that honestly, I just think that the attraction for the man is simply because people are entertained by whatever it is he says and does. I mean, it can't be anything else except they're bored by
So put him back
Biden
on TV.
and entertained by Trump.
So put him back on TV.
Yeah,
If he's
yeah.
so entertaining, put him back on TV. Hey, gang, we did it again. We talked long enough to create an episode before actually starting the episode. So, this will be an intermission. Take your bathroom break, refill your coffee or cocktail, and we'll see you back here for part two.